Hi, I'm Karen from Haven College and Career Readiness Services, and this is our FAFSA tutorial. This tutorial, you're going to be able to go through the FAFSA with me screen by screen. I see this working best if you go ahead and watch this video by your cell phone or on your tablet. That way you can pause me as you need to while you're still completing the document on your computer. If you've not gone ahead and watched my video on FSA IDs and how to get one of those, or my FAFSA tips, I would encourage you to watch both those videos before actually watching this video. And if you have your orange folder, certainly you want to go ahead and get that now too. All right, so without further ado, let's go ahead and get things started. And I'm going to switch my screen so you can see the FAFSA document. So this is what our FAFSA document looks like. I've gone ahead and used the website. You'll find the website address there on your orange folder. And for most of us, we're going to be new to the FAFSA process, so we're going to start here. Now, if you are a returning family and I have lots of returning families that still come to my FAFSA nights and my FAFSA days and those types of things. So if you are already in college and you already have your FSA ID and you're getting ready to maybe start your sophomore, junior, or senior year, then you're going to go ahead and just use login or hit login, and you're going to use your FSA ID information for that. For most of us, we're probably seniors in high school, or maybe we're juniors who are graduating high school early. So we're going to go ahead and click Start Here. And we come to this particular screen, which is the login screen. We're going to go ahead and enter through the student side. And this is where you would go ahead and put in your FSA ID and your password, okay? If you don't have one of those yet, you can hit Create One. In my case, since I'm using a fake student, I'm going to go through student identifiers. And then I'm just going to go ahead and make up a student name, okay? And I'm also going to go ahead and make up a social security number. And one tip, I probably should have done this, click on Show SSN, Show Social Security Number, and I can tell that I need to go ahead and put in some more digits there. And I'm going to also use, I've used a fake name, I've used a fake social security number, and I'm going to use a fake birthday as well. So we'll go ahead and put that on in there and click Next. Every time we click Next, that is going to automatically save. So keep that in mind, that it's helpful for you to know that every time you go from screen to screen, your information is going to be saved. This is basically a disclaimer, a warning saying that we're accessing a U.S. federal government computer system ran by the U.S. Department of Education. I'm going to go ahead and accept this disclaimer and move on. So now we're working on our FAFSA. Most of us are probably going to go ahead and file a FAFSA for the school year 21-22. Okay, so if we're starting school in August of 2021, this is the FAFSA we want to use. Now let's say you're graduating in December and you're going to start college in January or something, then you would go ahead and click, you'll need to fill out both, right? You'll need to fill out one for January and then another one for August. But in most cases, we're going to go ahead and click this particular box. So I'm going to go ahead and say starting a 2021-2022 FAFSA. All right, our save key. So I encourage people just to go ahead and keep this simple. I just use 1, 2, 3, 4. Keep it simple. If you have your orange folder handy, when you open it up, you'll notice that in the opening flap towards the left-hand side in the bottom, you'll be able to document your save key, so you can go ahead and write that down. If you're not able to complete your FAFSA today, to be able to log back in to get everything back that you've worked on and that you've saved, you're going to need your FSA ID and you're going to need your save key. So this is one of the two pieces of information that you're going to need to be able to get back into your document. So we'll click on Next. And we will, we've got some question, basically some information here if you want to know some additional things. Certainly, I'm always available. You can reach out to me by phone. I guess I shouldn't say always available, but for normal hours, I am available by phone and email. So if you do run into questions or whatnot, don't hesitate to reach out to me. My contact information is on my website. It's also on your orange folder. So we're just going to go ahead and move on to next. And you'll notice that everything that I have put in has pre-populated here. So you can go ahead and provide a middle initial if you want to do that. And otherwise, we're going to go ahead and click next. My email address, I can go ahead and do that as well. And I'll just go test1. And I'll re-enter the same email address. And a phone number. And I'm just going to continue with my fake information here. And we'll go ahead and click next. A mailing address, so we'll just do a fake mailing address as well. And I'm going to go Homeville as my city address. And I'm going to use my state as Indiana. Just for, I guess, knowledge-wise, I'm going to use a personal zip code there, but otherwise all this other information is fake, and I'll go ahead and click next. Have you lived in Indiana for at least 5 years? Most of us are probably going to say yes, but I want to show you what populates if you say no. You'll have some additional questions to answer here, but in my case, I'm going to go ahead and say yes. And then the next question is, are you a U.S. citizen? And here are your choices here. You're going to go ahead and choose whatever applies to you. I'm going to go ahead and say yes and click next. What will your high school completion status be when you begin college next fall, basically? Okay, and so in our case, since we are high school, since I'm putting that I'm a high school senior, I will have my high school diploma. Okay, what college degree or certificate will you be working on when you start college next fall? So most of us are probably going to put our first bachelor's degree or one of the associate degrees. This is not binding, so I don't want to say it doesn't matter, but choose what you believe it is that you're gonna study, and then if you change your mind, it's not that big of a deal. But so I'll go ahead and put first bachelor's degree, and then will you have your first bachelor's degree before you begin? No. So leave that pre-populated as no. And then what will your college grade level be when you begin next fall? So even if you are a student who's taken college level classes, we're going to go ahead and choose never attended college first year. Are you interested in being considered for work study? I encourage all students to say yes to this question. This allows you to work on campus. You can always say no later, but if we say no or I don't know now, we don't get the chance to say yes later. So my thoughts are keep every opportunity open and say yes, and then we're ready to click on next. Are you male or female? I'm going to respond female, but I want to show you what happens if I were to respond male. So it's going to basically say that all, or most, I suppose, but usually as a male citizen, you have to go ahead and register with the Selective Service System to receive federal student aid. So you'll go ahead and answer this question. Are you registered or not? You'll answer that. If you say no, then you're going to be able to say yes to this to help you get registered. Okay. So again, you'll answer that of how it's most appropriate for you, but keep in mind, if you are male, you will need to register with the Selective Service System to receive federal aid. So I'm female, so I'm going to go ahead and answer it like this. And I think since I had put male is why I now have that system. I'll leave it checked as yes, and we'll move on. If you want to go ahead and supply your driver's license information, you can. It's not necessary. So I'm just going to leave it blank and click on next. Are you a foster youth or were you at any time in the foster care system? So you'll answer this question as is appropriate to you. I'm going to say no. So now we come to our first parent information. So highest school completed by parent 1, and then you can see that we have the same response here for parent 2. So if you are living in a house that has both parents, then you're going to need to go ahead and determine who's parent one and who's parent two. If you have two parents in your home and both of them file a tax form, married, filed jointly, then whoever's listed as parent one on that tax form is probably who I would use to answer this question. And so that will determine who your parent one is and who parent two is. And again, on the inside of your orange folder on that flap, you'll be able to document who is parent one and who is parent two. In my case, since I'm trying to move through this fairly quickly, I'm just going to say that we have one parent in the household, okay? And I'm just going to go ahead and say that they have graduated from high school. Again, you'll fill out whatever is appropriate for your parent or parents. So we're still now in the information for the high school, and I'm going to go ahead and put down my actual home high school. So this is true information. I could put down the city if I wanted to, but I know, and for my state, I'm going to go ahead and put down Indiana. So please don't be offended for my Ohio people. I'm going to get to Ohio in a bit here, but for this exercise of my home high school, I'm going to put South Putnam, I'm going to put Indiana, and I'm going to go confirm. And I know that there's only one South Putnam High School in the whole state of Indiana, so that's why I didn't necessarily need to put down the city. Again, you do what you believe is best there. So it's going to come up, and then we're going to go ahead and say next. Now we're to the point where we're going to be able to put down the schools that you're interested in attending, the schools that you want to receive your FAFSA. You can go ahead and put down 10 colleges at a time. Once your FAFSA is confirmed and has been processed, you can come back here and switch out your schools. So if you have more than 10 schools that you want to send your FAFSA to, no worries. It's just going to take a little extra time for that to process through. Okay. I will say it's so much easier to fill this out now. So even if you think, if a school is on your radar, I would go ahead and include them now if you have the space, just because it's easier to do it now versus having to come in, log in later to add them later. So to support my Ohio students and my Ohio schools, we're going to go ahead and choose an Ohio school first. And again, I can put down the city. I'm just going to go ahead and put down University of Cincinnati. And I'm not even going to spell out Cincinnati so I can show you how it will pre-populate some. So I'm going to go search. And it's actually going to pull up two schools. So it pulled up Cincinnati Christian University and University of Cincinnati, which was the one that I had intended. So I'm going to check that box, and then I'm going to go ahead and hit add more schools. Okay. So now I'll go ahead and go back and add in some Indiana schools. And I do want to go ahead and add in Ivy Tech for purposes of both Ohio and Indiana, so you see how this pulls up. So for a lot of our community colleges, no matter if they're in Indiana or Ohio, a lot of them just have one, even though there's lots of branches, they're only going to have one that deals with financial aid. So whether it's in Ohio in particular, I'm thinking of Miami. In Indiana, obviously, I'm thinking of Ivy Tech. So even if you're interested in attending an Ivy Tech in South Bend, you're still going to go ahead and click the Indianapolis office because this is the campus that's going to process your financial aid. I think I'm just going to leave that. I'm just going to leave those two schools, okay? So we'll hit on next, but if you have more schools to add, certainly just keep on adding them as I had done in the past here. So we'll click on next, and then we now need to go do our housing. So let's say for the University of Cincinnati, I'm going to live on campus, and at Ivy Tech, we're not allowed, there is no campus housing, so I'm just going to go ahead and put that I'm going to live with a parent, okay? And I'll click on next now. So again, we're still working with a student. So this is a student question here. What is your marital status of today? Okay, so single, married, remarried, separated, widowed, or divorced. So I'm going to click single and go on to next. And now we've got some personal questions, and these questions are designed to determine if you are an independent student or not. Okay, so the first question is, do you have children who you provide more than half of their financial supports, okay? And then the second question is basically the same thing, but it's about dependents. For both of these questions, I'm going to put no, but again, if your circumstances is different, you're going to answer that as it pertains to you. And then again, we have more personal questions here. Are you currently serving in active duty in the U.S. Armed Forces? So more than likely, if you're a full-time high school student, you are not active duty. Are you a veteran? of the armed forces. Again, usually if you're a high school student, that's not going to be you either. At any time since you turned age 13, were both your parents deceased? Were you in foster care, or were you a dependent or ward of the court? Okay. And then next question, as determined by a court in your state of legal residence, are you or were you an emancipated minor? And then the last question, does someone other than your parent or step-parent have legal guardianship of you as determined in a court of the state of your legal residence? For example, so let's say you're living with a grandma or grandpa or an aunt and uncle or someone it is who loves you that's not a parent. Do they have legal guardianship over you, a legal document from the courts? Okay, so if any of those apply to you, you're going to go ahead and check those boxes. If you have any questions about these questions, don't hesitate again to email me or give me a call. For this particular exercise, I'm going to put none of the above, and I'm going to go on to next, and we're going to find the last personal question here. So on or after July 1st, 2020, were you homeless or were you self-supporting and at risk of being homeless? So for example, let's say you are couch surfing, or you're living with some friends, or you're living with a significant other and his or her parents. So if you're not living at home, then you very well might go ahead and choose to say yes here. And my thoughts are, if you end up saying yes to this question, you need to go ahead and follow up with your guidance counselor, because they're going to have some paperwork that the school is going to need to file to be able to prove this status, so you can go ahead and be an independent student. So if you say yes to this, make sure you follow up with your school counselor to make sure the school has the paperwork on file. For our purposes, I'm going to say no and move on to next. All right, so we're about ready to end the student stuff and get into the parental information. So unless you're an independent student, you're going to have to provide information about your parents, okay? So we're going to click the box yes, okay? But if you were able to click any of those other boxes that I read about, then you can say I'm unable to provide information about parents, and it's going to skip all parental information. But for most of us, we're probably going to have to provide information about parents. So we'll click that box and we'll move on to next. So now we are transitioning into the parent side of things. So this is now, you'll see it says parent information here. So as of today, what is the marital status of your parents? And I believe before I only put one parent down. So your choices are going to be never married, unmarried but both legal parents living together, married or remarried, divorced or separated, or widowed. So for our exercise, again, just so I don't have to put down two parent information type things for income and data, I'm going to go ahead and just put never married, but you would go ahead and put whatever applies to you. And then which parents' information will be provided, I'll just say fathers. All right, I'm going to go ahead and make up a fake social security number for dad and give him a fake name and a fake first initial and a fake birth date and a fake email address. So we'll say dad, and we've got to retype that again. Okay, so we've got our fake parent all put together here, and we'll hit next. Has your father lived in Indiana for at least 5 years? We're going to say yes, but this is what you would get if you said no. So you'll just have a couple more questions to answer, and we'll click on next. Household size. So we've got one parent in the household, and then we have ourselves, the student. Now it's asking, are there other children, basically siblings, in the home? So in our case, I'm going to put 0, but certainly you would put siblings there. Keep in mind that a sibling is defined as someone that your parents would provide at least 51% of their financial support and under the age of 24, okay? And then other people. So let's say, if you have a grandma and grandpa or an aunt and uncle or someone that your parents might provide at least 51% of their financial support, that would be older than the age of 24 and that aren't your siblings, this is where they would go, okay? So if someone like that is living in your home where your parents are providing their support, you would put put that number of people there. I'm going to put 0. So essentially we have 2 people in our home and we have 1 student going to college next year. Now, you unfortunately are not able to include parents in this number in college. But if you have an older sibling who is in college, you would go ahead and put that and include them in the number of college, okay? So to recap, we have 2 in our home and 1 that's going off to college next year. And we'll hit next. All right, so now we're to our financial information for parents. Now, remember, we're using your 2019 tax return information. So, has your father completed the tax return? And we're going to say already completed. You could say I still need to file or I'm not going to file. So in our case, I'm going to hit already completed. And then what type of tax return did he do? Almost all of us do an IRS 1040. And then what is his filing status? So if you are in a home, where you have 2 parents, maybe they have filed a joint return, maybe they have filed a separate return. If you're in a home like I have presented to where it's a 1-parent home, it's probably held a head of household. If you are a student and you have filed, more than likely you're going to file a single. But that is all documented on your 1040 tax form to where you should be able to find that information. For our purposes, I'm going to put head of household. I'm a huge fan of the IRS tax retrieval tool just because it makes things so much easier for you. So if you're able to use it, by golly, click on link to the IRS. But in this particular case, since I'm using fake people and fake social security numbers, I know I'm not going to be able to link to the IRS to use the data retrieval tool. Reasons that you might not be able to use the tax retrieval tool would be that maybe your address has changed since you filed, maybe your marital status has changed, or maybe you went ahead and did an amendment to the original tax return. So those are the 3 common reasons why you might not be able to use the data retrieval tool. But by golly, if you can, I would highly encourage you to do so because it pre-populates so much information. It just makes it so much easier for you. So in our case, I know I'm not going to be able to because I'm using fake people. I'm just going to go ahead and click on next. So again, it's telling me how great the tax retrieval tool is. Unfortunately, I know I'm not going to be able to use it, so I'm going to click on no thanks. And then, so father's adjusted gross income. So I'm going to be able to find this on my 1040 form on line 8B. So for my exercise, I'm going to go ahead and put $40,000 here. Again, this is going to pre-populate your adjusted gross income if you've gone ahead and used the tax retrieval tax retrieval tool, excuse me. All right, so now we're working off of the wages, salaries, and tips. So again, it's going to show you what lines to use there so you know what to do. Just to give you an idea of what a Schedule 1 is when it's asking there. So a Schedule 1 lists additional income. So some of you may have Schedule 1, some of you may not. I'd say it's probably 50-50. So if you Schedule 1s, this is the kind of additional income it's going to mention. So alimony, business income or loss, rental income, real estate, anything from a royalty, partnership, S corporations, farm income, unemployment compensation, all of those would be there on your Schedule 1. Also, things on Schedule 1 are adjustments to your income. So educator expenses, health saving account deductions, moving expenses, self-employment tax, if you're self-employed and you participate in certain retirement plans, alimony paid, IRA deduction, student loan deduction. So those would be examples of why you would go ahead and use a Schedule 1. Some of you may not have a Schedule 1 at all. So in this particular case, I'm just going to go ahead and say that, again, Dad made $40,000 for the year and there was not any additional income. All right, so you indicated that the parent filed a 1040. Did he file a Schedule 1? Again, I'm going to say no. I just reviewed that with you. But if you did, then you'll go ahead and say yes. And then now we're looking at father's, how much income tax he paid. So this is where we would take on our 1040, we take line 14 and we subtract that from line 2 of your Schedule 2. And most people probably aren't completing a Schedule 2. Let me read the Schedule 2 information to you. So if you are self-employed, you might have gone ahead and filed or have a Schedule 2. If you have household employees, you probably have a Schedule 2. Those are typically the Schedule 2 type things. So again, look on your tax form. If you happen to have a Schedule 2, complete that, or not complete it, but go ahead and use that to subtract out taxes here. In my case, I'm just going to go ahead and use what's on line 14, and I'm going to estimate that the parent then paid about $2,000 in income tax. I'll go on to next. And now we've got some, again, parental questions here. A lot of these are going to go ahead and be pre-populated directly from the tax retrieval tool if you were able to use that. So combat pay, college student grant and scholarships reported, education credits, untapped portions of IRA. Now, again, they're not asking for, you're taking these directly from your lines of your tax return here. So again, payments to if you're self-employed, payments to your retirement plans and taxes and income. Again, if you've used the tax retrieval tool, automatically populate for you. If not, it's going to tell you exactly where to look on your tax form to find these lines. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and let all those zeros pre-populate. This is where we're going to go ahead and document child support paid by dad, and then if there's any earnings under a cooperative education program, and then taxable earnings. Okay, so you would go ahead and do that. These things would not pre-populate from the tax retrieval tool, so you would need to go ahead and answer these questions appropriately. I'm just going to leave them as 0. And now we're to child support received. And then if you are a member of a military or clergy, if you have any living allowances, you would put that in. Again, those two things are not going to be on your tax return. None of this stuff's going to be on your tax return that would be used on your tax retrieval tool. So you'll need to answer these questions. And then probably the thing that I see the most, other than maybe child support, is the payments to tax deferred pension and retirement savings. So in this box right here, they're not asking for the value of your retirement plan. They're only asking for what you contributed in 2019. And you can find that on your W-2. So that's why it's not pre-populating, because it's coming from your W-2, not from your 1040. You're going to find that in these boxes, those 12A through D codes, okay? And that's what you'll go ahead and put in this particular box if you've gone ahead and put in money to your pension or your retirement savings directly from your check. And then you've got a question about non-veteran benefits, and then untaxed income. Again, for our purposes in this exercise, I'm going to leave those all as 0. Do we want to skip questions about parent assets? No, we need to answer these questions, okay? So we definitely want to answer these questions. As of today, what's the total current balance of cash savings and checking for parent? And I'm just going to go ahead and put down $1,000 here. So as of today, what's the net worth of your father's investments? So we do not include parent homes here. We don't include parent vehicles. We don't include parental authorized retirement accounts. Okay, so don't include any of that. But if the parent has investments, maybe stocks and bonds that are not associated with retirement accounts, that would go here. If there are any 529 plans, okay, for not only the student, but for maybe siblings too, that's where this is reported. So those are the types of things that would go in this particular box. And for this exercise, I'm going to put 0 for both of these. And the last one then is the net worth of parent businesses and farms. Now keep in mind, you're not going to include a family business or farm that's owned and operated by the family and that has fewer than 100 employees, okay? So for our cases, we're going to go ahead and say 0 there. Again, if you have any questions of what the definition of that is, don't hesitate to reach out. So we are now in the process of we're transferring back over to student information here. Okay, so again, this is about the student. So for 2019, did the student complete a tax form? I'm going to go ahead and say no. So not going to file. And again, I'm using fake. Well, one, I didn't file a tax return, I suppose. But if you are a student who did file a tax form, you'll be able to use the tax retrieval tool, and that will give you a button just like you saw on the parent side where you can click on that. For our case, I put that the student didn't file, so we don't have that button, so I'm just going to click next. And we're going to say that the student had 0 income and click next. And now we have all those same questions that we had for the parents. I'm going to leave them all pre-populated as 0, and same with these two. We do want to answer questions about the assets, okay? So for the student, I'm just going to say, 5,000. Wouldn't most kids like to have 5,000 in their bank account? I'm going to go ahead and put 500, and then I'm also going to go ahead and put that the student doesn't have any investments, nor do they have a farm or a business. And click next. And we're almost done here, folks. We're doing well. All right, are you a preparer? Well, I can tell you, if you're listening to my video, you're not a preparer. So this is if, maybe you've hired a CPA to go ahead and fill this out for you, but in 99.9% of the cases, it's no, and we're going to hit next. All right, so this is your FAFSA summary, and it basically takes your question and then your response. So I think this is a really good thing to print out so you have for your record. So I would encourage you to click print this page. That way you can use it next year, because you're going to want to fill out your FAFSA each and every year you're going to be in school, okay? So I would encourage you to print this page and then hit next. So to wrap things up, we need to go ahead and provide our student signature and provide a parent signature. This is hopefully done electronically by your FSA ID, okay? In my case, since I have fake people, I don't have FSA ID, so I'm going to show you how to get around this. So provide student signature, I'm going to have to agree to this statement and click next. And then this is where you would put in your FSA ID and your password to sign. But in my case, I don't have one, so I'm going to go ahead and do other options. And I'm going to go ahead and click submit without signatures, and now go next. And for the parent, I'm going to again agree to the terms, hit next. Hopefully you will be able to put in your FSA ID information here and just sign the FAFSA. In my case, I'm not. Now, I will say for parents who might not have a Social Security number, you're going to want to print a signature page, okay? And that will print out. You'll need to sign that document, and it will give you the address to where that needs to be sent to. And it needs to be mailed off within 3 days of completion, for this to all be valid, okay? So when you submit without signatures, this is not a good way to go. That means that you basically you need to come back within the document within 3 days to get this shored up, to be able to sign off on everything, to get either a signature page or to go ahead and use your FSA IDs to sign in electronically, okay? But since I know that I'm not going to be able to do either one of these, I'm going to go ahead and, just for our purposes, use that. I'm going to hit next. And now I'm ready to submit my FAFSA. Woohoo! All right, so congratulations. Your FAFSA was successfully submitted to the federal student aid, okay? So let's review a little bit of this. So in 3 to 5 business days, you're going to receive an email notifying you that your FAFSA was hopefully processed. Parents, keep in mind that these emails actually go to the student. So if my fake student here, if she was able to pull up her email address, it's going to give me a congratulations email as well. So if you've done this with me screen by screen, your student should be able to check their email now, and they're going to get one of these congratulations messages. Okay? I would encourage you to go ahead and print this page for your records. The important thing on here is this expected family contribution, this EFC. This is an important number. This is the number that the colleges use to determine if you are eligible for state and federal aid. And I do have a video that basically says, what does your EFC mean? And I would encourage you to go ahead and watch that, and then reach out to me, share your EFC with me, so I can go ahead and in turn tell you exactly how that's going to impact your life come next fall. So I'll be able to say, this is the financial aid that's coming your way. This is institutional gift money that might be coming your way. And you can sort of sit down and come up with a financial plan, and certainly ask me questions of how to bridge any gaps or what kind of data I might be able to share with you in a very personal nature as you guys plan for a student's experience to go off to school. And again, I can do that by phone, by email, Zoom, Google Meet, whatever, however you want to communicate with me, FaceTime. All I really need is your student's EFC, and then to know what schools that they're interested in attending. And it does go ahead and give you a little bit of information of the schools that you would have gone ahead and put down. So we're done. Let me switch over here. All right, I'm back. We have successfully completed our FAFSA. Again, don't hesitate to reach out to me with any questions that you might have. Woohoo! This is a huge thing off your plate. Check off the box. Hopefully, you'll get, if you've already applied to schools. We encourage students to apply to schools by November 1st, or as soon as possible if it's past November 1st. But hopefully, now that you've gone ahead and completed your FAFSA, you're going to be able to hear from the schools that you're interested in attending. As long as you've already applied, you should really probably have an award package in the mail within the next month, 3 to 4 weeks. Again, thanks for watching the video, and reach out if you have any questions.